I'm making this video because of the comments that you guys had of my first video about women's oppression. So this video is pretty much going to address the question of whether women are oppressed or not. And my personal belief is that they are. We can break down this question on different topics. So we can look at it from the perspective of education, professional life, income and poverty, and the whole topic that it is oppression due to image ideals. So the first angle will be the educational angle. It might be less apparent that women are oppressed on the developed world. This is mainly because people think that women have the same access to education, but this is actually not the case. Because when you actually see entry levels on science faculties across the developed world, you actually realize that the numbers are really, really, really small compared to men. You can see this being really apparent in majors such as mathematics, computer science, anything that involves science has less women on it. And you can also, there have been many studies that actually show that it's not only about the entry level, but it's also about the numbers of women that actually graduate on the sciences. And women have explained that this is due to pressure and due to discrimination that women themselves find in these faculties. So you can see oppression there. Obviously, in developing nations, oppression of women in the educational sector is way more apparent. This is mainly because most women have, well, women in the world have the lowest access to education. This is mainly because in poor families, if there's any money to send children to school, the money will be used to send the boys to school because parents actually think that men will be more likely to succeed professionally and to actually support the family in later years. This is extremely apparent in countries like China and countries across Northern Africa, and even in some countries in South America, this is still a problem. So if we look at women being oppressed on their professional career, this is also pretty much apparent. You can actually look at the numbers of CEOs in the world from the most important companies and multinationals, and you can realize that only a small percentage of these positions are occupied by women. You can also look at it at pretty much the top positions in universities, financial companies, scientific organizations, and as I said, most of the top positions of the largest companies in the world are occupied by men and not women. So there's a trend here, and therefore you can make conclusions. You can also see that there's a lot of discrimination before women are hired for all kinds of positions. There's a gender bias. This has actually been shown by many studies that have been done in the US, where they show that just the fact of having a female name will significantly decrease your chances of being hired, just your gender. So there you can realize that gender does play a really incredible and I guess staggering role in whether you're going to be hired or not, in whether you're going to have professional opportunities or not. Obviously, in developing nations, this is way more apparent. What happens is that when there's all these bias in relation to gender, women are perceived to be weaker, to to be less professional, to maybe be unstable due to their periods, to be less, I guess, profitable due to the fact that they might get pregnant, etc., etc. So there's definitely a gender bias. When we look at the angle of income and poverty, the difference between men and women is actually extremely large. You can see that women are the most impoverished group in the world. Women have the highest numbers of food insecurity and the lowest access to healthcare. So there you can see that women are definitely oppressed by society because they don't have access to their basic necessities. You can also realize that women in most jobs across the world get paid less just because of their gender. This trend is really apparent, especially on big jobs. You can actually look this up. Though women that are CEOs that have the same position as their male counter, well, their men equivalents actually get paid less just because of their gender, even if they have more experience, etc., etc. Well, when we enter the whole image angle, it's a whole other story. Throughout history, it has been shown, you can look at all the different documents that are based on this topic on academia, books, etc., that show that women are incredibly oppressed based on their image. So we're pretty much exposed to these unattainable ideals of how women should be dressed, how they should behave, how they should look, how they should act. And since they're unattainable, women's perception of themselves is actually less strong than men. So, for instance, you realize in advertising and media that women are meant to look like this and that, and since most women in the world cannot actually attain those ideals, their confidence and self-esteem is is obviously affected by this fact. I guess I could make another video based on this topic because it's so broad, but you can ask, well, there have actually been studies on this that have shown that most women in the world feel underconfident because of their of their views of self-image. So I guess in some women might be more apparent due to issues such as bulimia or anorexia, and in others might be more the fact that they feel uncomfortable because of the way they look, their nose or their weight or their hair, etc., etc. So just let me know what you think, if you agree or disagree with me, if you have some articles that you think I should look at. I'll definitely in the future put some links for people that are interested in these topics, and please subscribe, and I guess I'll see you in a few days.